The Declaration of Independence, to which these great men affixed their signatures, is much more than a political document. It constitutes a spiritual manifesto, revelation, if you will, declaring not for this nation only, but for all nations, the source of man's rights. Nephi, a Book of Mormon prophet, foresaw over 2,300 years ago that this event would transpire. The colonies, he saw, would break with Great Britain, and that the power of God was with the colonists, that they were delivered by the power of God out of the hands of all other nations. The Declaration of Independence was to set forth the moral justifications of a rebellion against a long-recognized political tradition, the divine right of kings. At issue was the fundamental question of whether man's rights were God-given or whether these rights were to be dispensed by governments to their subjects. This document proclaimed that all men have certain inalienable rights. In other words, these rights came from God. Therefore, the colonies were not rebels against political authority, but a free people only, exercising their rights before an offending, usurping power. They were thus morally justified to do what they did. Finally, the document concludes with this pledge: for the support of this declaration, with a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. How prophetic that pledge was to be. 56 men signed the document on October 2nd, 1776, or in the case of some, shortly thereafter. They pledged their lives, and at least 9 of them died as a result of the war. If the revolution had failed, if their fight had come to naught, they would have been hanged as traitors. They pledged their fortunes, and at least 15 fulfilled that pledge to support the war effort. They pledged their sacred honor, best expressed by the noble statement of John Adams. He said, "All that I have and all that I am and all that I hope in this life, I am now ready here to stake upon it. And I leave off as I began, that live or die, survive or perish, I am for the Declaration. It is my living sentiment, and by the blessing of God it shall be my dying sentiment. Independence now and independence forever." How fitting it is that we sing, "Oh, beautiful for heroes proved in liberating strife, who more than self their country loved, and mercy more than life." We know the signers of the Sacred Declaration of Independence, and the Founding Fathers, with George Washington at their head, have made appearance in holy places. Apostle Wilford Woodruff was president of the St. George Temple at the time of their appearance, and testified that the founders of our republic declared this to him, quote, "We laid the foundation of the government you now enjoy, and we never apostatized from it, but we remained true to it and were faithful to God." Later, after he became president of the church, President Woodruff declared that those men who laid the foundation of this American government and signed the Declaration of Independence were the best spirits the God of heaven could find on the face of the earth. They were choice spirits, not wicked men. General Washington and all the men who labored for that purpose were inspired of the Lord, unquote. Yes, I thank God for the sacrifices and efforts made by these founding fathers, whose efforts have brought us the blessings of political liberty and economic prosperity we have today. Their lives should be reminders that we are the blessed beneficiaries of a liberty earned by great sacrifice of property, reputation, and life.